Hey Steve, it's Patrick Labyorteaux here. Played Bud on Jag, but I guess you already know that. I'm so glad you requested these questions. Your first question here about how did Bud lose a leg? I don't know. I don't know where the idea came from. I can tell you when I heard about it. Obviously, we were at war in Iraq, and I think they wanted to do something that was a big cliffhanger for the end of the season, which it ended up being. I was with my wife. We were at home, and we get a call from the executive producer, Don Belisario, and he says, "Patrick, we're gonna blow you up in Iraq, but you can't tell anyone." I'm like, "Okay." And my wife is listening on speaker, and she's saying, "Are your eyes open or are they closed? Are your eyes open or are they closed? Like, am I coming back the next year or not?" And I said, "Here, my eyes open or closed?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, your eyes are open. You're just losing a leg. But it's going to be great. You're going to lose a leg, and, we'll go through all of that." I appreciate the compliment. It had a lot to do with the writing. Once you have a show, I think we were in our 7th season. Once you have a show that's been on for a while and you got your basic plots down, it's not that you go through the motions, but that's why you go to see a show. There's going to be a court case, there's going to be an investigation, and then we're going to find out if the guy is guilty or innocent. And so when they gave me the storyline of losing my leg, it's kind of completely set aside from the rest of the storylines in the show, and it was a real great opportunity. They gave us a lot of great special insight. They allowed me to talk to people that had lost their legs and lost their limbs, and were working back with the physical therapy and all the different accoutrement that they had to use with all the different when your legs or arms or whatever are amputated. I thought it was a great storyline too. It's like I kind of sometimes distance myself from the story writing versus the acting. It's like, thank you for the compliment, but I'm not going to sit around and say, "Oh, it was great." But I thought it was a great storyline. I thought it was a great storyline to address all the facts that the people that I met all the way through doing JAG when we were doing when we'd go to military bases and we'd run into real life, service members. Those are real people that are giving up their lives and supporting our nation and doing really good things. I just played one. I'm an actor. I just played one on TV. I'm nowhere near as good as those people are. And so for all the people that did, sacrifice limbs and their health to support, the rights of freedom and to try to make it better around the world, God bless them. I noticed that you watched it with your dad. I think that's great. I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people got into it because the older generation was into remembering, their time in the service. And I don't know, it says, were you in the service? Yeah, your late father was in the service, and that kind of makes sense, that he would have that connection. I don't know if he was in the Navy or not. I don't know if he was into the law, but it was a real great time to have that experience, to experience all of the different parts of the military. Mark Harmon, reflecting on doing summer school. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. You can believe it or not, but it's absolutely true. I got Mark Harmon the job on NCIS. I love to tell this story because it's like, I just love to tell the story. Again, Donald Belisario came in and we were at lunch and he sat down and we started eating lunch. I go, "What are you doing, Don?" He goes, "I'm writing this spinoff for JAG, for this NCIS. And I go, "Okay, who are you looking at?" He goes, "I'm looking at Bakula." I go, "Bakula's good." Scott Bakula from Quantum Leap. But apparently he was busy. And he goes, "So I don't know who I'm going to use now." And I go, "Well, what about Mark Harmon?" Because of Summer School. Because, I'd worked with Mark Harmon on Summer School. I'd also worked with him on a TV movie called Prince of Bel-Air. Not Fresh Prince, but, Prince of Bel-Air. And he goes, "Mark Harmon." I go, "Yeah, he's doing a guest thing on The West Wing right now. Go ahead and take a look at it." And he went and he looked at it. And then a little while later, I saw Don. I said, "So how's it going?" And he goes, "Oh, I found this great guy. I was watching West Wing, and I found this guy named Mark Harmon. So I think I'm going to use this guy named Mark Harmon," never realizing that we'd had the conversation. But hey, he's Don Belisario. I've loved him from Battlestar Galactica to Quantum Leap to JAG. So, look, I've met a lot of guys in the over the years doing this show, and I got to tell you, all the people in the service, they come from such the right place to help the country to help others. I'm very impressed. I was lucky to play somebody like Bud. I wish I was more like Bud than I am. He's got a really big heart. I think I'm pretty good at that, but it's like just he's willing to sacrifice so much, and like you said, he's gone through a lot. He lost a kid, he lost a leg, he lost this, he lost that, and I benefited from the show. I met my wife on the show. We had our child on the show. It was wonderful. It says here, any thoughts on Harmon Mack on NCIS? Of course I have thoughts. Here's my biggest thought. I don't know if you saw it, but there was an episode that I did of NCIS where I'm talking to, gosh, I don't watch the show. I'm so bad. I'm talking to one of the new, Jennifer Esposito. And before she comes in, I'm talking to kind of like the Bud character on NCIS. God, Sean. I know their names. This is very embarrassing. Anyways, we were doing the scene, and I know that everyone wanted to know what was going on with Harmon Mack. So I pitched to the producers and writers that we have this little interchange where he goes, hey, whatever happened to Harmon Mack? And I go, oh, you're never going to believe it. And then we get interrupted, and I don't get to explain to him on camera what happened to them. And it was something that I thought would be really fun. Apparently people really liked it because, again, it brings up Harmon Mack. Like you say, the coin toss kind of left everything up in the air. And I just love the idea of keeping it possible. You know, I saw the NCIS one where it's kind of like they're cold and distant, and they never really were cold and distant in our show or in person, really. I thought they had a really good chemistry. And just because they're my friends, I mean, these are people that I got to work with for 10 years. It was a really great experience. I mean, it was just, I'm lost between being a real person and being a character. But basically, yeah, I think Harmon Mack should be together. I think that they could have made it so that they're together, but they're separate and they're fighting that, and that the enemy is not being to be able to be together. I don't know. I'm a big shipper. Oh my God, I am such a big movie buff. I had posters of Excalibur, the John Boorman film, Star Wars, Heaven Can Wait, tons of different posters when I was a child. I had all the Star Wars films including Revenge of the Jedi, which I don't know where it is, and I'm really pounding myself over the head about it because, as you know, Revenge of the Jedi is like the little pre-poster they did before they released the movie, and it's supposedly worth a mint right now. Plus, it was really, really cool to look at. But yeah, no, I'm a huge fan, huge science fiction fan, big time with Star Wars. I watched Star Trek, the TV show, when I was a kid. I don't have anything against Star Trek, but it was Star Wars that I was in, that I was really into. I would say that for Bud, the stuff about sci-fi came about because me and a guy named R. Scott Gemmell, who is now the producer of NCIS LA, he was a writer on the show at the time. He was into science fiction, and we started talking about science fiction, and then he kind of added that to Bud. I didn't go to them and say, hey, make Bud a science fiction guy. But I was a huge fan of Magnum P.I., who Don Belisario produced Magnum P.I., and he produced JAG, and he also produced Quantum Leap. I had watched Quantum Leap, but I was a much bigger fan of Magnum P.I. But we did do an episode where we got to meet Donald P. Belisario at the Quantum Leap convention, which was kind of fun. Favorite actors. I love Kevin Kline. There's a movie called Soap Dish, which he did, which is just one of my favorites, A Fish Called Wanda. I just think comedy is underrated, and he's been wonderful. TV shows, I just watched The Boys. I thought that was pretty good. And for bands, just really any hair band from the 1980s. Guns N' Roses, Warrant, Cinderella, Motley Crue. I love them all. Hey, Greenie. Hey, man, what's up? I think all of the acting is amazing. Any Emmy nominations or wins? Well, thank you for, I'll include myself in all the acting is amazing. I think so, too. I think one of the things that was really key to that was David, who played Harm. He worked from the same way from day one to the last day, where he broke down his script. He knew everything that was going on. Usually in a TV show, when you get so used to doing the same stuff over and over, you don't spend the same amount of time preparing. But he did. And I took that cue and I did as much as I could. And I don't know what Catherine's process was, but I'm not saying she didn't. I mean, everyone always knew their lines. I think we did a lot of good stuff. I was really thrilled to be in that show, like from the beginning. But once they blew my leg off and they started doing stuff with my babies, and there was a lot of dramatic stuff that I got to do, which was really cool. As far as the Emmys, I don't think there were any either nominations or wins for acting. I know that we won for costuming for Paul Daffelmeyer, and I know that we won for, I think it was in the first year, cinematography for our cinematographer, Hugo Cortina. I think those were the only two, and Paul Daffelmeyer may have won more than once. Oh, and I think Bruce Boughton was nominated for the theme song, which he should be. It's amazing. And all of them. I mean, I think that it's hard to remember because it was back in the 90s, but when JAG started, in my opinion, no one really talks about this, but in my opinion, JAG gave a real cinematic look to a TV show that at the time really wasn't done like that. In the first and second season, we were over budget and over schedule on most every episode because we did take the time to light and to shoot the episodes with a little bit more flair than what had been before us. I was really proud of that, even though it wasn't my, choice or anything like that. But it was really cool to be a part of that. And of course, with Paul Daffelmeyer with the Emmy nom and win there, here's a guy who has to dress however many people it is in exactly the right uniform with all the right pins and badges and commendations and rank and fit everybody. It's one thing if you're a costumer to have to dress somebody. It's like, oh, he's going to work in an office. Here's a sweater. Here's this. Here's that. It's another thing to have to dress everyone in military garb because you can't be wrong if a guy's in a sweater in an office, but you can be wrong if the ensign isn't wearing the right thing or the lieutenant isn't wearing the right thing or they got the wrong cover or they've got the wrong, medals on. So he did a great job and all of his team did. It was just an amazing team. How was it working with the other leads? It was really fun. What was great about the show was I did the pilot with David. And it was really weird because we did the pilot and I wasn't going to be on the show, except at the middle of the pilot, Don Belisario said, hey, I want to add you to the show. And I said, I'd love to, but I have this other show that I'm doing for Fox called The Last Frontier, which is basically like Friends in Alaska. And we went and did 8 episodes of that. And then at the end of the first season of JAG, Don Belisario called me again. He goes, hey, you ready to be on a real show? And I said, yeah. And so he had me come back as Bud in, I think what's now called Skeleton Crew. At the time, it was the last episode for NBC. And that was the other thing. We were on NBC, and then we got canceled. And so the first year, they had Tracy Needham as the partner, and they didn't have me. They didn't have John Jackson. And then in the second season, he kind of lined everything up. Catherine Bell played a character in the very last episode, which, again, Skeleton Crew. Don liked her, decided to write Mac for her. He brought me on board and he brought John Jackson on board as the JAG. And that was kind of like, then we went like that for 9 years. So what was great about it was I knew David from the pilot. I knew Catherine from when she first guest starred on the show. And so we were, I would say friendly, for sure friendly. But like, you work with someone, you're not going to hang out with them. So we really didn't hang out that much. But on the set, working with them, it was great. It was really fun to see what we were going to do. And, Catherine is a sweetheart and David's hysterical. So there you go. Can you give a shout out to my friends Steve, Chris, and Rob who do the variety show here in Baltimore? No. Of course I'll give you a shout out. What am I saying? No, I'm not a total jerk. Hey there, Steve, Chris, and Rob. You're doing a variety show in Baltimore, huh? Do you do any The Wire scenes? All I know about Baltimore is crabs and The Wire. Apparently everyone needs to watch The Wire. Hey there, Greenie. Patrick here. Shawnee Smith. Yeah, I love Shawnee Smith. Shawnee Smith is awesome. We had such a fun time on summer school, and she's got such a great personality. We had, she was pregnant in the show, and so we had all this fun. She was always wearing this baby belly in the show, and so when we were on location, like at the I think we were at Knott's Berry Farm for the amusement park location, and the animal farm and the beach. Whenever we were around each other, I got to like kind of punching the little padding that she had on her tummy, which it started off as a joke, and then it just kind of became like this thing that we did that wasn't like, we didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it. And so we were at Knott's Berry Farm, and I was doing it, and this older couple came along and said, "How dare you?" Thinking that this woman was really pregnant and I was really hitting her, and we had to explain that we were doing a movie and she's not pregnant. But I stopped after that. Shawnee Smith it was interesting. I was in a dance class at the Susan White Dance Academy in Van Nuys, and her and her sister, she was in a dance class as well, although we didn't really know each other. And then I went to college years later, and I met this girl at college, and I took her out on a date, and we dated a couple dates. It turned out to be Shawnee's older sister, which I only knew when we did summer school, and Shawnee told me all about it. So yeah, it's been so long since I've seen her. Maybe 30 years? Because there's a reunion kind of on YouTube where they played the summer school at the New Beverly, and it was myself and Dean Cameron and Gary Riley and Richard Horvitz and Fabiana and Gills. Anyway, so there were those people there, and Ken Olin. But Shawnee wasn't there, so we didn't get to see Shawnee then. But it's been a long time. But she's wonderful. I had a great time. Sorry, dude, I didn't watch Homicide either. But I did, congratulations. Work is work. Bud lost his leg in season 7. I'm probably wrong. You probably know better than I do. So just in case, on the day that we did the shoot, which this was like one of those big movie secrets. And of course, the internet was around, but it was not like it is now. So like we were able to keep a secret by it. It wasn't in the script. The only people that knew what was going to happen were the people that were shooting that scene that day. And if you remember the scene, it's just me in the middle of an Afghanistan minefield trying to get a kid to like come out of the minefield and not get blown up, and then I get blown up. So it was just the crew that knew exactly what was going to happen. They had a dummy scene written for the rest of the script that ended that episode, and it was, I think, the end of the season as well. So it was a big surprise. During the shooting of it, I kept saying to myself on camera, "It's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay," because I wanted to make sure that I left the season saying something so that we knew that I was alive. So it worked. They didn't kill off Bud. Bud survived, and we had that whole next season of Bud's rehab, trying to get around, figuring out how he was going to do what he needed to do in life, about his prosthetic. And it was really informative. We had a guy that we worked with that was my prosthetic double, who had lost a limb, so that they could shoot scenes like that without a person without the lower half of their leg. Most of the time, it was just me holding my leg behind my back. Let me see if I can do this here for you. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, basically, it was this, where I just did that type of thing. And surprisingly, it worked. Surprisingly, it was one of those things that, worked. We tied my leg behind my back, and then we shot it. I also wore a green sock, like they did in Forrest Gump, to digitally remove the leg. And then after a while, when Bud came back to work, it was just basically I did a certain type of walking, a certain type of limp that indicated that I was working with a prosthetic. Interestingly, from that season through the 10th season, through the 3 seasons after that, I got used to walking like that, and it took me a while. I'm not a method actor by any means. I'm not a person that falls into his characters, but just that particular walking habit persisted, and I had to actually work hard to stop walking like I had a limp. I guess the reason why it was so ingrained is because I told myself that if I walked like that all the time when I was on the set, then there wouldn't be a scene where I'd forgotten it and it didn't look like Bud had a limp. As far as people who still think I don't have a leg, I haven't run into anybody that's asked me that. However, online, there's a lot of people that ask that. And online, there's an answer from the JAG publicist saying that no, he hasn't lost a leg. I appreciate that. I mean, I get that myself all the time. I'm always questioning that when I'm watching a show and something happens, if the actor himself or herself, had that happen to them. But no, not really. No one really asks it. Maybe because when I'm in person, they see that it's not real and that I've got both my legs, perhaps. Anyway, I hope you're doing good. Hope that was worth reaching out. It was really interesting. The whole process of doing it was really fun. And again, 7th season, as for an actor on a TV show, one of the great things that I loved about playing Bud was I got to do different things. If I was the lead of the show, if they had blown Harm's leg off or Mac's leg off, it changes the show so much that they really couldn't. So my character, you could do things. I could get married. I could have kids. I could have injuries. I could have all these different adventures that the main characters didn't get to participate in because they're the leads. They're the ones that need to stay the same, basically, so that you see the show that you like each and every week. Anyways, hope you're doing well, and thanks for reaching out.